When the city comes bearing down and work is crushing your soul, why not upheave your entire life and become a farmer? Stardew Valley is an experience as much as it is a game, and when it launched in February 2016, it took the indie scene by storm. With its addictive gameplay, great storyline, in-depth characters, and fantastic story of how it came to be, Stardew Valley was poised to be a global success from the beginning. Today we'll be doing a retrospective dive into Stardew Valley and what made it into the masterclass example of indie gaming that it is. Stardew Valley is quick to throw you into the action with a million things to do. Your farm is overrun with stones, leaves, wood, and more. So of course, you start schmacking everything on the farm to try to get it nice and tidied up. After about 2 minutes of this, you look to the bottom right and you see a bar begins flashing red. That's right, all your goals and aspirations to clean up this farm today? Not happening. This is the first major part of Stardew Valley's gameplay loop. Patience. While the farm is a wreck, you're left at the mercy of your energy bar being depleted faster than you want it to be. The player has to learn to ration their energy and only do so much per day. Every day should be focused to get the most out of your energy. Another thing to note is that your energy doesn't replenish itself during the day naturally. So if you want more energy, you'll have to eat the crops that you spent energy to build. You'll have to spend gold, which you used energy to get, or you'll have to go fishing, which uses energy, or go to bed and wait for the next day. The moral of this mechanic is simple. If you want to do more today, you're going to pay for it another day. After that first moment of your energy being depleted, you're going to start walking around the town to meet the inhabitants of Stardew Valley. As you see the sights and explore the town, you'll realize that your first mission of introduction is not as easy as it seems, as the NPCs are very randomized in their schedule, but actually more consistent than you think. In fact, the majority of NPCs, while hard to find in one place, have a very set schedule that repeats on a weekly or monthly basis. And as you frantically try to find everyone on your first or second day, you'll realize that it's starting to get dark. Besides just your energy bar depleting, you are also constantly running out of time every single day. Come 2 a.m., you will pass out, lose money, and wake up the next day tired. So you have an incentive to get to bed earlier rather than later and be caught off guard. This means from the second you wake up to the minute that the day can possibly end is 20 in-game hours or 14-ish minutes in real life. The game has now accomplished the impossible. I am extremely stressed and I'm running out of time, but I'm also extremely well planned and I know what I'm doing today. After you're acquainted with this planned stress mechanic, you get introduced to the meat of the game, which is farming, fishing, and mining. I like to call this FFAM. FFAM relies on you sucking at the beginning of them and encouraging you to increase your tools, your skill level in the game, or your actual skill level in real life. A majority of the tasks required to get good at farming, mining, or fishing really are difficult, and without upgrades, you'll have to spend a lot of time learning how they work. For example, a lot of players will start by planting 9 bean starters in a square pattern and realizing, oh god, I can't reach the middle one. Knowing that you can't walk through the trellises is something that players wouldn't intuitively know, so learning that mechanic very early on is important. As you play the game more, you'll realize that you can upgrade a watering can which can actually reach that, and then you'll realize you can harvest it. Mining requires you to get good at some basic combat and dodging abilities, but it gets easier when you realize that you can get better swords. You'll also need to learn that the TV every morning gives you a fortune teller that's actually telling you your lucky drop rates in the mine, and in some other places. If you don't know about the luck mechanic, you might wonder if you're just getting unlucky when a day gives you no ladder spawns at all, and another day gives you a ladder spawn for every stone you break. And for fishing, well, you just kind of got to get better at that. You can make your bar bigger, but it doesn't really do much when you're trying to collect presents too, and trust me, you cannot convince me that that doesn't suck to do. So you've arrived on the farm and we've started our small town life, but how did we get here? Well, it all starts with your grandfather. Presumably, our grandfather is on his deathbed, giving us his final words. He gives us a letter and tells us not to open it until we feel like we are being crushed by the burdens of modern life. Cut to us working at Joja. Now, we don't know exactly what Joja is, but we do know that they have large distribution centers, a lot of employees, and are a superstore. Cough, cough. It seems like the majority of people working in this office are relatively normal, average 9 to 5 cubicle workers, but when we look at us, we are dozing off, tired, ready to be done with it all. We open up our desk drawer, where I guess we have always kept this letter just in case of emergencies, and we decide to open it finally. We read what Grandpa had actually left us, which is the deed to his farm on Stardew Valley. Without missing a beat, we are on a bus heading to Stardew Valley, where we meet the carpenter and the local mayor. As we arrive at our new home, of course it's decrepit and run down because grandfather hasn't been there for a long time to look after it. So it's up to us to fix the place up, and the carpenter and mayor assure us that with a little bit of elbow grease, it should be possible. As we explore this little town, we learn from the mayor that even though we escaped Joja is inescapable. The mayor says he's considering turning the community center into a storage facility for Joja Mart since they want it so bad if one more person gets a membership there. So it's up to us, the player, if we're going to save the community center or give it back to our corporate overlords. Oh, and did I mention that Joja Mart has a supermarket in this little village? Yeah, when there's a perfectly good family-owned market right inside of it. Well, when it's not closed on Wednesdays, Pierre. The mayor takes us inside and we are... How do you say this? Junimos? Junimos? These little guys are spirits of the forest. Yes, Stardew Valley does have the mystical, magical stuff inside of it. This next part might be a little bit spoilery, so if you haven't beaten the game fully or gotten past year 3, skip to this time in the video to avoid the spoilers. Once you complete the bundles that the Junimos have left out for you, you start to repair the community center until it's eventually back to its former glory and the town begins traveling back to have community days there. Pierre will finally be open on Wednesdays, thank God, but unfortunately Clint will close on Fridays, but no one cares about Clint. I saw what you said about Emily. At the beginning of year 3, Grandpa will evaluate you based on the last 2 years that you've spent in the valley, and there's a 21-point scoring system that he can do this on. Depending how many candles you have lit at his shrine will depend on what kind of dream you get and reward you get. Assuming you do as good as possible through those 2 years, Grandfather congratulates you in what I consider the canon ending, saying that his soul has finally been put to rest and that he can now be safe and assured that Stardew Valley and his farm are in good hands. Stardew Valley is mostly a commentary on contemporary lifestyles, talking about consumerism, the daily grind of the workplace, and the corporatization of everything. The game challenges players to work on rebuilding an old community center just to revitalize the town, to shop locally instead of at a mega market, and to give back to nature instead of turning it into a storage facility. But the story of Stardew Valley on its surface is relatively normal. It's not until you start to meet the characters of the world where you get into the more interesting and amazing parts of this game's storytelling. Stardew Valley really wants you to interact with its characters, and it encourages you to do it in multiple ways. Number 1, you receive call to actions from characters. They might show up at your door, literally asking you which of these animals do you want. They might send you a letter saying that they lost their axe somewhere in the forest and they need your help to find it. Or they may post something on the help wanted board for potato juice so they can totally not get wasted off of it, right, Pam? Number 2 is objective chatting. This is where you need to get something done, so you chat with an NPC about it. This is things like shopping, traveling to new areas, expanding your house, and more. Though doing this, you won't get as much story. You'll mostly get small snippets about people's lives, but that can go a long way to encouraging a player to learn more about these characters. Number 3 is festivals. There are constant events happening in the world of Stardew Valley that the town asks you to participate in, and in fact closes off the town, so it's the only thing you can do that day. This is also where most players finally complete the introduction challenge of the game, where you meet all the characters, because everyone is gathered together. Well, mostly everyone. Players will find it natural while they wait or in the lull between the mini-games of the festival just to chat with other NPCs and see what's going on in their lives, what they think about the event. It's a lot of fun, and players are always surprised by what people have to say. Number 4 is natural conversations. You might be traveling around the world of Stardew Valley for a day or two, not having an exact plan of what you're going to do, but know things you need to gather. So on your way there, while you wait for Pierre to open maybe, you chat with someone on the road. It's these very natural conversations you can have with characters in the world that make you feel like you're really there, like there's people talking to you that are interested in what's going on. And many new players don't realize that NPCs are on a set schedule. It often seems like they go places at random, but if you follow the characters in the game, you can literally see their everyday plan. It's incredible. It's things like that that make the game really feel like you are there. You realize that conversations are very natural with the characters in Stardew Valley, especially when you go places and you weren't expecting to see them. Like the saloon at night, you can find a lot of people. Or sometimes you'll see exercise classes going on. It just reminds you that this is a vibrant world with actual characters that you can interact with. Number 5 is dating. Yeah, not only can you get to know people and make good friends out of them, but you can also Stardew them. I wrote that pun and I hated the fact that I knew I was going to say it for this video. Not every characterable Not every character is dateable or available for marriage, but even if they're not, you will get exclusive dialogue and events just for becoming good friends with them to learn more about them in depth and more about the experiences and things you can do in the world. Every character has some form of custom cutscene or interaction that just adds so much life and character that it is unbelievable. To increase friendship with characters, the game once again forces you to think about more than just monetary gain or the simple necessities of life. You have to take that which you earned, like crops and minerals, and give those to people as gifts instead of selling them. As you learn what everyone likes and dislikes, you become closer and closer with the inhabitants of Stardew Valley, and you really feel like you're making a difference. You'll win their affection, go on dates, and eventually have a little farmer of your own to carry on the legacy when you're gone. To be honest, I could go on and on about all the dialogue and events and crazy things that happen when you go on dates, but if you've already played the game, you already know about them, and if you haven't played the game, I would feel horrible ruining that experience for you. The game has real depth to its characters, and it encourages you to keep up with them every single week. Every story is different, every character has obvious personality, and you will never run out of crazy and wacky things to find. And you know, that really does raise questions about the studio that took all the time to write and create these characters. Or should I say, the one person. Eric Barone, and I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, this is future Brandon editing this video. I believe his name is actually pronounced Eric Barone, so I'd like to apologize for the millions of times I'm about to say it wrong, but just imagine I say it right. Also known as Concerned Ape, is the lead and only developer of the original single-player mode of Stardew Valley. He started working on Stardew Valley in his mid-20s and worked very small odd jobs like being a movie theater usher. Despite having a degree in computer science, Barone didn't want that degree to go towards some cubicle programming job that grinded him to the bone until he was morally destitute. It was that sentiment that not only spurred him to create Stardew Valley, but created the entire foundation of the story that Stardew Valley tries to tell us. Stardew Valley and Barone's life is about escaping the mundane and creating your own adventure from scratch. Of course, this was incredibly risky, and Barone talks often about how long he had spent just working on this game hour after hour, pushing back release dates, and spending a lot of time almost broke. With the help of close friends, family, and his girlfriend, Barone eventually was able to, by hand, create every line of code, every piece of dialogue, every pixel of art, everything, completely from scratch. If you hear a song that you like in Stardew Valley or see a character portrait that's beautiful, it's all the same person. In the book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, Jason Schreier ends up talking to hundreds of developers to gain an insight into what the gaming industry looks like, and ends up making an entire chapter dedicated to Barone. I really recommend you read this entire book if you're interested in things like this, especially about Stardew Valley. It is an incredible read. I've got it linked in the description if you want to see it. Here are two quotes from Barone that I think really encapsulate what Stardew Valley meant to him. I just wanted to play another game that was exactly like the first two Harvest Moons, but just with different people and a different map, he said. I could have played that forever, different iterations of that same thing, but it didn't exist. So I just figured, why hasn't anyone made this? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to play a game like this. There were points when I was depressed and just thinking, what am I doing? Barone said. I have a degree in computer science and I'm working a minimum wage job as an usher at a theater. People would ask me, do you do anything else? And I said, I'm making a video game? I just felt embarrassed about it, and they must have thought, oh, this guy's a loser. After years of working alone, Eric Barone finally had all of that hard work pay off when only 6 months after the game launched, he had made $21 million. He described the experience as surreal, and later went on to meet Yasuhiro Wada, the creator of Harvest Moon, who played Stardew Valley and said that he loved it. While he has said that he loves to work alone on his game and believes it to be more of his child than anything, he has had to bring on team members to help with things like localization and ports to different consoles, and that's all done through his publisher, Chucklefish. Chucklefish even put a developer on his team to take care of the game while he took a much-needed break in the middle of the summer in 2016. Eventually, Tom Coxon of Chucklefish came on board to help Eric finish up the netcode for the multiplayer release of Stardew Valley. Basically, he just works with the team to help get the game to more people, not necessarily change anything from the game that he originally created. And when you look at the story of Stardew Valley, how it came to be, it starts to make sense why Eric cares so much about keeping it his child. After years of development and a very hard time of it, I hope that Eric Barone is finally getting the rest that he deserves after all these years. In the end, Stardew Valley teaches us many lessons, but none are more present than this. Take your time and do what you want. That's how the game lets you play, it's how the story comes to pass, it's how the characters come to know you, and it's how Eric Barone even made the game in the first place. Eric Barone and his game are the perfect example of following and chasing your dreams until they come true. From a theater usher to a multimillionaire, and from a Joja employee to a hardworking farmer, the story's the same. Stardew Valley really does change what it means when we say, well, I'm taking every day as it comes. Thanks for sticking through to the end of the video. If there's two things I could ask you to do, it would be follow me on Twitch and do the normal YouTube stuff like subscribing, liking the video, ringing the bell. And I hope you decide to do that not because I'm asking you to do it, but because you think that my content is worth it. Sincerely, any support is appreciated, and I thank you just for sitting through this video. When you're ready for another video, you know where to find me. Is that not how I end my videos? That is how I end my video, right? Do I forget my own outro? I'll see you then! Ah, I forgot my own outro! When you're ready for another video, I'll see you then. Got my own outro. I just said it. When you're ready for another video, you know where to find me. I'll see you then. I can't believe I messed that up. Oh, that's so funny.